Yo, what up, guys? My name is Crisis, and today I wanted to do a tutorial on this bass I made in Serum. It's kind of a heavy dubstep growl bass, and I'm gonna play it with other stuff I have going on too, just so you can kind of hear what it would sound like in a track. And then I'll play it by itself to see if it's something you'd want to make. It's gonna be this bass here, this growl. Alright, so I'm gonna play it with everything. Right, so it's this bass, and then I'm gonna also turn off post-processing so you can hear what it's gonna sound like directly out of Serum. So this is what it's gonna sound like. Right, okay, so let's get into it. Alright, oscillator. Oh, let me turn everything off first before, so you can hear it come together. Right, so oscillator A is FFT add fourths, which is found in the digital tab right here. I turned it up 12 semitones. I have the wave to position up 15 notches. Unison set to 4, detune set to 0.05, blend is up all the way, phase is up all the way, and random phase is down all the way. Then for the warping mode, I have it set to flip, and I have that set to 61%. And then what I'm doing is I'm turning this all the way down, the level all the way down, because it's just going to be used to FM oscillator B, which oscillator B is our evil long Reese. And this is turned one octave down. Everything is pretty much the default setting. This is set to 1, doesn't really do much. These are all the same, the default, except for the phase, which is turned all the way up, and the random, which is turned all the way down. So, okay, and then I have my LFO, which is this shape, set to the FM from A on the warping, and then that is all the way down, and the LFO goes up 51. So yeah, so now this is what it's going to sound like right now. So then without the FM, you can hear what it does. So like this, without the FM, it's just this. Right, so it's really boring. It doesn't have the movement that it does when the FM is on. So one more time with the FM on. It automatically gives it more movement and a more gritty feeling that I like to go for with my basses. So then for the filter is under the multi, it's BPN24. Now I don't know what each one means. I think it may be a band pass and then a notch and then something else. I'm not too sure, but that's just what this is what I chose though. So it's set to oscillator B. And then there's a lot going on here. The cutoff is set to 77 hertz, or 89 hertz, I'm sorry. 89 hertz. And then the LFO is bringing it up 56, okay? And then the resonance is all the way down. Panning is default. The drive is set to 34%. And then the morph is set to 68% with the LFO bringing it down negative 26. So this is morphing the filter as it moves, and we can see it when I play it. It's kind of moving in a different way, and that's because it's morphing, and then we're changing how it morphs with the LFO. And then the mix is set to 0%, and then I'm bringing it up 44 with the LFO, because I didn't like it how it sounds all the way up, because it sounds a little weird. I liked it when it was less dry. I mean less wet, I should say, and set to this value. I like that a lot better. So yeah, that's everything with our oscillators and our filter, our first filter at least. So now let's move into the effects. I started with a hyper and dimension expander. The hyper isn't really on, so we can just, doesn't really matter. You can just turn the mix all the way down. It's not on, so it doesn't matter. The dimension expander is set to 13%, and the mix is set to 11%. So it's just kind of adding a little bit of width to the patch. So it sounds like this with it. without. So just a tiny bit of width to it, not too much. And then I added a distortion, which is set to soft clip. I set that to pre. I set the frequency to 8 Hertz, and then I bring that LFO on it, and bring it up 59, and set it to a high pass with a Q of 1.9. So then with that, and the drive set to 55, and the mix up all the way, sounds like this. Well, this is without it, and then this is with it. Kind of gives it a cooler movement, kind of more filtered sound, which is pretty cool. I added a flanger next with the rate all the way down, depth up to 79%, and then the LFO is moving it up 21. The feedback is set to 21%, and then the phase is up all the way, and the mix is set to 63%. This is adding a slight thing to the sound, not too much, not too noticeable. So I'll play it without, and then with. So a little bit, just a little bit of movement, not too much. I added a phaser next with the rate all the way down. Depth set to 26%. Frequency is set to 361 Hertz. And then the LFO is bringing it up 57. So it's going pretty much all the way up, if not all the way. Feedback is set to 25%. And then the phase is up all the way with the mix at 48%. So then with this, it's going to sound just a little bit different. That one isn't really doing much, but I like the way it sounds with it. So next is a chorus, which a cool part of the sound is coming from this chorus here. So it's the rate is all the way down. Delay 1 is set to 7.6. Delay 2 is set to 8.1. The depth is set to 7.1. Feedback is set to 16, and the LPF is set all the way up, and the mix is at 58%. So without it, I'm gonna play it without and then with. Without, with. It gives it more width and kind of a cooler sound that I like, so I added that. Next I have my filter, which is set to a Formant 2 under the miscellaneous tab. Cutoff is all the way, oh no, not all the way down, excuse me, it's at 8 Hertz, which the LFO is moving at 83. Resonance up is slightly to 4%. Drive is set to 40%. The Formant is at 0% with the LFO bringing it up 19. And then the mix is set to 0 with the LFO bringing it up 32. Now, I did this way where it's fading in with the LFO up not even halfway, because it's just adding some vocal and some character to the bass without changing it too much, because when it goes up all the way it sounds kind of too vocally and it changes the sound of the bass that I was going for. So I set it to this way, so it just is adding vocal character to it. So with it on, it sounds like this. With it off, it sounds like this. So it's not adding too much, just a little bit of that character, that Formant sound that I like, without changing it too much. And then lastly I added a compressor with the multi-band setting, and everything is set to the default except for the threshold, which is brought down to negative 13.7 dBs, which is really going to make it a bit punchier and kind of bring it together. Right, so that's everything I did within Serum. There's a bit of post-processing that I'm going to touch on, and now I might have done something that may not be too technically correct, but this is how I made it sound, and I like the way it sounds. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So first I started with an EQ, which is a high pass set to 150 Hertz, which is cutting out all the low content, which is leaving space for my sub bass and my kick drum. So I cut all that low content out, and then band 3, I have a small cut at 388 Hertz, and this is just kind of cutting out some of that mud frequency that I didn't like, so I kind of cut that out. And then I'm rolling off some of the extra highs at 18,000 Hertz, just because it's not really needed, so we kind of cut that out. Next is an OTT compressor, which is pretty much the default setting, maybe with some small tweaks, but other than that, it's pretty much default. The saturator, which is the drive is set to 2.5, color is off, DC is on, set to soft sine, output is to -2. It's 100% dry wet, and soft clipping is on. And then lastly, another EQ, cutting out the extra low content. The mud, which may have been added, and toning down a little bit of the highs too. So then after that effect chain, I have my reverbs on a send track. Is set to 19. Excuse me. And I have this reverb preset that my friend Trent Cast made. Big up to Trent Cast real quick. It's a really nice preset. I can run you through it real quick. It's pretty simple, but really nice. All this stuff here is off. Okay. Pre-delay is set to 0.83. Shape is 0. Quality is high. Size is 100. Stereo is 106.67. Decay time is 2.01. Density 96. Scale 5. Dry wet 100%. Diffuse 0. Reflect 0. Right, and then with my EQ, I'm cutting out all the low end and then some of the mids, and I just wanted affecting the high mids and the high end. So I boost that there, and I can have a small cut there. The rest, everything else is cut because I just wanted affecting the high end of the growl here. So that's set to 19, so it's not overwhelming. And then after all that processing and everything, this is what it sounds like by itself. So then with a sub, it's going to sound like this. Oh, wait. I got the whole subline in there, so hold up. Right. So then with everything as a track, it's going to sound like this. Right. So I hope this tutorial helped. You can subscribe if you would like to see more like this. I'm going to start doing more stuff like this, more tutorials on sound design, maybe sound design for my tracks, and maybe some stuff on mixdowns, stuff like that. And there'll be more stuff like maybe doing some interviews with artists and labels, all this stuff. So it's gonna be cool. I have a lot of new stuff coming out. So drop a subscribe if you want to see more. Hope this helped. See ya.